Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Chester deliberative meeting for today, Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Looking to my left and right, all of council are present. Mr. Solicitor, take it over.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of council, members of the public, welcome to the Monday, September 23rd, 2024 deliberative meeting for the City of Chester. Before we proceed with the agenda, I wanted to announce that our Chief of Staff has asked that we meet briefly in executive session to discuss a matter and personnel, a legal matter and a personnel matter.
Solicitor, would you like to meet after the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm just announcing that so we don't forget.
My apologies. And if I may as well, before we get started with business, I would like to introduce our new interim Human Resources Director, and just so that you guys are aware, and I'd like her to kind of step up and have her say hello to you all, if that's acceptable. Before the meeting. All right.
Hello, everyone. I am Tripolia Kennedy, so I will be standing in as the interim Human Resources Director for quite a bit. Hopefully not quite a bit. I understand that we need to get someone in here as soon as possible. I have been consulting for quite some time, various leadership roles, the latest being the VP of Human Resources in Philadelphia, social services organization that covers a lot of the city's social services needs, education, healthcare center, in partnership with the director of, with the Department of Human Services, in partnership with the city of Philadelphia as well. Been doing this for about 16 years now, a little over 16 years, so I'm looking forward to just help create some organization throughout our processes as it relates to people operations, human resources, and ensure that, we have a good flowing system for the next person in hand. Okay?
Thank you.
In addition to the executive session, Justin would like to just briefly address council either before or after the meeting concerning an MOU that is somewhat time sensitive, and he'll address it and I'll make a recommendation. You want to do that before or after?
We'll do it now.
Good afternoon, Council. Sorry, I wasn't anticipating doing this necessarily, but what you have before you is an MOU between the city and Chester Exchange, which basically, in summary, Chester Exchange is running some after-school tutoring programs. They're calling them like tutoring hubs across the city, and they came to us looking for a location that's more on the eastern side of the city. So they were wondering if City Hall could host one of these learning hubs. And so originally we were thinking that maybe the computer lab might be a good location to try to host these tutoring hours. And so we were sort of moving forward with putting that MOU together. But after some discussion with Tracy about, he has basically setups in the computer lab that is specifically like with all the new upgraded stuff, and it's set up in a way that is for training city employees on like the new systems and everything. So we're looking at alternative locations within City Hall, and the location that we identified is actually maybe the lobby area outside of the community room. They're only thinking it would be like 5 to 10 students would come in once a week on Wednesdays for an hour and a half. They'll bring in their own laptops that students could use. They could just access our public guest network within City Hall. There's no exchange of funds or anything like that. Basically just letting them use the space, and they have to be out by the time City Hall's closing, so we're not asking for like overtime or anything like that either. The reason that I'm coming before you right now is because they were hoping to start October 2nd, so the beginning of October with these learning hubs. It would be October 2nd from 3 to 4:30 when school lets out. So I was talking with Solicitor Schuster, and I guess the couple options that we have, if we want to try to have them, start at that time, to either add this to the agenda for, for this coming council meeting, or to add it to the next agenda to ratify, a signature to allow them to start using the space, should council choose to.
The only question, the question that I have is, you said from 3 o'clock to 4:30?
Yes.
Most of the schools get out at about 3. So would it be a time conflict? Will they be actually getting that hour and a half, or? would
I
they
think
need to
the
stay
idea is
later?
that, students would basically, on that day, go straight from school to their nearest learning hub and get, about an hour. Let's say they got there at 3:30, they'd get about an hour of tutoring time. They could use the computers. There's going to be some, Chester Exchange will have tutors like on site to help with students. So this is kind of like a pilot. They're just trying this program out and see how it goes. And they'll have a couple of these hubs around the city, and they were just looking at City Hall as one of those potential locations.
I was at an event that they had, and it worked out pretty good. They had some math and tutoring here for an event, and I really think that it'll be a benefit to our community if they're allowed to do it. I'm just concerned about the time frame, and then would they need any additional staff to help them with the children? Say 10 to 15 children come, so will they have a ratio of 1 adult to 6 kids, or how would that work out?
That's a good question. I think that within this MOU, there's no expectation that the city would be, offering staff or anything for the children beyond just, we have people at our front desk helping people come in and just making sure that the building is safe and secure. But they would be responsible for staffing. Again, they were saying that they're anticipating there would only be, maybe 6 students any given week present. So they're only going to have like 5 to 10 laptops even available for this hour.
And I'm not sure, this question probably isn't for you, but I know most, like Councilman Gibson said, most schools get out, I think charter schools gets out like 3:15, public school about 3:30, 3:45, depending on the school. And so I'm not sure how effective or how much time they would actually have to actually tutor. From getting them out of school here, settled, and then to tutor. So
Yeah, no,
I
that's
don't
a
know,
good.
but I understand the time strain as it relates to City Hall hours, and so I
Right.
understand that hard 4:30 cutoff, so that way we don't have to get into overtime and et cetera. So yeah, I'm not sure about the time, but
Yeah, so to your
Overall
point,
program.
Councilman, I think that it's possible that at other sites, if they don't have that cutoff time, that they are going longer. But for us at City Hall, we said if we were going to host you at City Hall, we do close City Hall at 4:30, so that would be kind of our hard cutoff time. But if you would still be interested in trying to utilize City Hall, we could work on an MOU that had that cutoff time. So I think that's why that time's there specifically for us. They may have longer times at other locations that they're working with.
and I know it says something about them providing insurance. Have they provided that? And Solicitor, you said that you was going to make your recommendation. I'm not sure.
So
what
I've
you-
legally reviewed the contract, and it does meet all the necessary legal requirements for a city contract. My understanding is that they will provide insurance, naming the city as an additional insured. The legal question at hand, in my opinion, is obviously whether you want to proceed with this based upon the time constraints, but you want to proceed with this by placing this on the agenda for Wednesday, which would obviously be, we have to bend our rules a little bit, or have it signed and then ratify it at the next meeting.
Well, I wouldn't want to delay it when it comes to children being able to receive some tutoring. So how does the rest of council feel about moving forward with it?
Delay it from moving forward next.
They want it on the agenda for this Wednesday.
We have the option under the sunshine law to place it on the agenda today in advance of Wednesday's meeting, so it would be compliant. Or my recommendation would be to get it started, to have it signed and then ratified. Either way is fine by me, but it's council's preference.
And neither option delays, they still get started when they want to get started, October 2nd.
I don't have a problem with, moving it forward, putting it on the agenda for it. See if the school wants to get started first. And as long as all the legal requirements and, are in place, I'm not against moving it forward. That's just me.
When did this information come about? Like, when did this MMO first come into anyone's possession?
I'd have to look back at the timeline. I know we spoke with Catherine Red and Elizabeth. Her last name's escaping me, but we spoke with her a while ago about potentially utilizing the site. We looked at it. They sent us an MOU. And then last week I was discussing with Tracy about, the MOU and the space, and that's when we realized we had to kind of shift what we were discussing to this different space. So I ended up editing this MOU last week, sent it to Solicitor Schuster to take a look at.
Okay, well, if it's not going to hold up any processes, because as the mayor just mentioned, they can still start whenever with the agreement that's in this, within the paperwork. I think that we should wait until the next council meeting, just because we're establishing consistent practices that information has to be submitted 1 week prior on Wednesday at noon. Is that correct? Or is it 1 o'clock? I keep saying.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So I think we should stay consistent in what we've been doing and wait until next council meeting. But I'm also not trying to hold up any kids from receiving tutoring, trust me. So if that's going to be an issue and I'm going to be the holdup, then I vote that we go ahead and get it out the way. However, I am trying to stay consistent in the practices the city of Chester has demonstrated we want to do, and which would be pushing to the next council meeting if we're staying consistent in our decision-making process.
I agree with that. I'll go along with that.
And I do apologize. I did not mean to spring this on you guys, so I apologize for that.
So, next council meeting, or?
If they can still do the tutoring, then yes, we can do next council meeting.
We'll ratify it.
But if they can, they say, we all say, or I guess the agreement is they are not allowed to enter City Hall premises and receive the tutoring until we decide to make a vote, and we can vote today. But I do want the kids to receive the tutoring and the services that they deserve.
So there have been, just in terms of consistency, I agree with you, but there have been exceptions made for time-sensitive matters. I think the cleanest way is to place it on the agenda for this week. It's always cleaner than a ratification, but you can ratify.
And we have to post this 24 hours before the council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and discuss it at your deliberative meeting today, which you're doing. So you would be sunshine law compliant.
I say that we move it so that the children can get the tutoring that they need to receive. Like, I wouldn't want to hold it up.
And with that, I do agree with Councilman Gibson. I don't want to hold it up either. I already stated, and we're in complete compliance with the law, so I'm fine with moving forward today. Councilman West already said she agreed. We're not breaking any laws. She supports the children receiving their tutoring, so that's good.
Well, again, thank you, council, for your time. I do apologize for the late notice on this, but thank you for your consideration.
So are we all in agreement that it's going to be moved to Wednesday?
We got at least 3, right?
Yeah.
So we're good. Forward.
So the agenda will be amended to include a resolution adopting the partnership agreement and memorandum of understanding between the City of Chester and Chester Exchange this coming Wednesday at our regular meeting.
Thank you. And I will send you a digital version of this as well.
Thank you.
And you guys will post this tonight or tomorrow morning
Janelle?
before 10?
Yes, that's a yes.
So to your point, Councilman Davis, you got 2 things you're working with here is the decision of the follow our schedule for putting things on the agenda, or just move this forward, given the choice on something like this that is pretty simple, doesn't cost any money. I always think it looks better if you approve something before it kicks off than after it kicks off. So there's a lot of times when we're approving things, people being hired, contracts or whatever, because it's time sensitive, you get it out there,
Justin?
then do the vote later. Now we're moving this on to the agenda so that we can vote on it, and then the event will occur. So, me personally, like to approve things before they occur than to have things occur and then subsequently say it's okay.
And I do understand that. However, like I said, I wanted to make sure that we're always practicing consistency. So we're going to be consistent in one area. I think we should continue to be consistent in an area, unless, like you said, unforeseen circumstances happen and things need to be pushed forward in a timely fashion. Then I do understand that, but I think that the city of Chester just needs to work on staying consistent with everything we do, decision making, policy, anything like that. I just think that consistency is the best policy. That's all.
Yeah,
I do agree.
no one's disagreeing. It's just,
I understand.
more complex things you kind of do want to make sure you got it all checked out before you vote. So I think it's your turn again, Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you. The following ordinances will be,
Well, I thought we was going in executive.
well, after.
Oh, after. Okay. Thank you.
Ordinances. Final reading of Bill number 7, ordinance number 6 as amended, amending ordinance number 16 of 2023. Amending ordinance number 16 of 2023 entitled 2024 Budget, providing for compensation adjustments, corrections, modifications, and changes in organizational alignments for use during the 2024 calendar year. Final reading of Bill number 8, ordinance number 7, enacting Article 133 entitled Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. Amending Article 133 entitled Civil Service in its entirety and enacting new Article 133 entitled Police and Fire Civil Service Commission of the codified ordinances of the City of Chester, Pennsylvania, 1978, as supplemented and amended to provide for and oversee the examination of applicants for appointment to any position that requires testing in the police and fire departments. First reading of Bill number 9, amending Article 901 entitled Excavations. Amending Article 901 entitled Excavations of the codified ordinances of the City of Chester by adding new subsection C to 901.13 entitled Backfilling and Repaving to include circumstances for base repair, surface milling, and overlay. In addition to the aforementioned ordinances, the following resolutions will be presented by council for final passage. Resolution 96, authorize approval to install a handicap parking zone in the 3000 block of West 11th Street and in the 2500 block of West 6th Street. Resolution 97, authorize approval of the memorandum of understanding with the County of Delaware to extend the deployment of county law enforcement emergency services personnel. Resolution 98, to authorize approval for the appointment of a new broker of record for the city's workers' compensation insurance provider. Resolution 99, authorize approval to submit an application to the Department of Economic and Community Development under the authority of the Municipalities Financial Recovery Act. Resolution 100, to authorize approval of an intermunicipal cooperation agreement to receive allocated funds from the Department of Justice from the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for fiscal year 2024. Resolution 101, to authorize the appointment of a city administrator. That will conclude the list, and council will meet in executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Council, any questions on any of the agenda items?
On the item number 101, the appointment of a city administrator, I know we talked about the change. the third-class city, I believe we refer to them as the chief of staff. So are we not going by that anymore? Are we going to change it to city administrator instead of chief of staff?
I'd be happy to answer that question, Councilman Green. So the city codified ordinances list it as a chief of staff, but it's improper terminology. Even what's outlined, everything in the ordinance that's outlined for the chief of staff is what basically a city administrator does. One of the first tasks that I'm going to assign whatever individual takes the position will be to update that ordinance to change it from chief of staff to city administrator. That's the correct language that should be used. But everything that's listed in the codified ordinance that the next person to fulfill that role is outlined in the ordinance. It's just it's a name change, and the ordinance was passed in the 90s, and it's like many of the other ordinances that we have. It needs to be updated to reflect current best practices.
So, being as though it's not updated yet, should we still use the term chief of staff until it's voted upon council to change the name to city administrator? And I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want some clarity, because I know, like Councilman Davis said, if we're going to practice, good practices, and we're going to follow the city's charter and ordinance, all of that refers to chief of staff. I don't think I've read any of them that says city administrator. And so I just want to make sure we're doing things the correct way.
You're 100% correct in saying that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would defer that to Solicitor Schuster and what his legal recommendations would be, and I'm just going to add the caveat that I know in like Robert's rules, you can make changes, minor changes like that aren't necessarily substance. If we were going to be changing the job description and responsibilities and roles, that would be one thing, but something as simple as a name change is allowed. But I will defer to the solicitor on that.
So my question would be, if the ordinance is not changed in advance of the start date, I believe Councilman Green's point is well taken, and in order to empower whoever we're going to hire under the current ordinance, it should probably currently be chief of staff, and then the ordinance changed, and then the title changed. Otherwise, questions could be raised as to what a city administrator could do, since there is no ordinance concerning a city administrator. So unless we're going to change that before the start date, it's probably a good idea to actually appoint a chief of staff.
And
Correct.
there
And
you go.
so I am going to ask that we amend Resolution 101 to state appointment of a city chief of staff and not appointment of a city administrator.
Consider it done, Councilman Green. We will take care of that for you.
Thank you. And I would
Thank you for
also
bringing that to our
ask that we reach out or change the language and the contract or whatever the offer letter that we are submitting to this person that we're going to appoint, so that they understand that the title is still chief of staff and not city administrator yet. So I want everyone to be clear, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Can somebody just elaborate on Resolution 100, the authorized approval of an intermunicipal cooperation agreement?
So every year, the district attorney's office awards a sum of money to the police department under the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. And that's what that is.
And it's up to the discretion, once the grant is received, it's up to the discretion of the police department to facilitate and allocate those funds however they see fit.
There are certain conditions for which the money can be used, but it is, I believe, somewhat discretionary by the police department as to how they use it, subject to the terms and conditions of the grant.
Okay.
Any other other questions, council?
And Solicitor, just one more question. The concern was brought up about the resolution that Justin Tibbles would like to
Yeah,
discuss.
Justin, I did address that with child clearances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The contract will have to have child clearances in based upon the potential for minors. It shouldn't be a complex process, but,
Is that in the agreement?
no, not currently, but we had a discussion and that will be in the agreement.
Will all that be done by Wednesday?
Yes.
I think that
I don't know that the child clearances will be done, but the agreement will require it to start.
I'm saying, will the,
I can't hear you.
will it be in this agreement that they all have to have child clearances? Because it's
I
not,
believe that it is.
is it,
Say that?
Sorry,
I have it right here.
But I think under expectations for Chester Exchange, it does say that they'd have to have all of their checks and clearances completed. So obviously we could, check on that. But I think that was one of the items in there, if I'm not mistaken. But I totally agree that we need to make sure that the MOU is sufficiently
it
covering.
is in here on the first page at the last paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah, you did put it.
All staff check.
So the city of Chester needs to make sure that we have an agreement that anybody working in collaboration with us has to have their child clearance, has their child clearances.
When dealing with
Is-
minors.
Do we have that in place currently?
Is it that policy? Yes. That's state law. So yes, we abide by state law whenever we deal with minors.
We're good.
Well, we're good in the state law, but we wanted to make sure it was in the agreement, which we did. And I thought we had, but I just wanted to clarify that. So,
Is that what the point you was raising, Chief?
It's not, and we'd be happy to discuss this in executive session. It's not necessarily needed for the public comment, but I just wanted to make it known so that I didn't know if we need to know the topics of discussion for executive session. So now we started with two.
it's a legal matter.
It's now going to be three.
It's a legal matter.
It's a legal matter. Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to bring it to the attention that it's going to be one other thing that we're going to discuss in executive session, but it doesn't need to continue in the public forum.
I have a question where it says all staff, and we're not staff, but if all staff and tutors who are visiting the hub have to have these clearances, what about the people that are already
We
working
can-
in City Hall?
We will discuss that in executive session. That all your questions for this can be addressed in executive session.
That was my final question.
Any other questions from council? How about those of you out there, directors and whatnot? No? Seeing or hearing none, I think we're off to executive session. Meeting adjourned.
Janelle? Janelle,
You all right, Jim?
I think you may want to be in the executive session.
Right.